Antoine with another episode of Out Enough, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm gonna go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanay Howard. I am an educational consultant. I work with families of student athletes and student athletes, academic planning to get them post-secondary scholarships.
We thank you for joining us, Shanay. Are you ready to get into the questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Where are you originally from, born and raised?
I'm born and raised Queens, New York. You know, Queens make the money, Brooklyn take the money. So,
Okay, that's good. That's good. And so, where did you start at in sports?
So I started at 12 years old in Queens, New York, playing for an independent organization called Positive Direction. It was run by an awesome woman called Joanne Arbitello Pinnock, and she taught me the game of basketball. It was after 97 when the WNBA came out. I'm dating myself when I say that, but that's how I started in the independent program in Queens, Rosedale, Queens to be exactly, with a program called Positive Direction and Joanne Arbitello Pinnock.
All right, all right. Are you still involved with the program?
I am. To this day, I'm still involved with the program. I talk to Joanne on a regular basis, but I'll go speak. If she'll have me speak, I'll do webinars. But also, if she'll send me any students that need to talk about anything, I'm always going to be tied to that program. It's a lifetime thing. We created a knit group, so all of us that are on her original team are still in a big group chat. It's very funny, but we're grown with our own kids and our own husbands, and we're still connected since 12 years old.
All right, all right. And what are some sports that you played in your youth?
Basketball was my main sport, but I didn't start that until like 12, 13, and that's what it got me my Division I scholarship. But I did run track. I tell student athletes all the time when I'm doing outside speaking engagement, I was on the swimming team for a week. It's not because I can't swim, it's because it was messing with my hair. So that's really why I stopped. Didn't make the swim team. I was one heck of a diver. And I was on the team for a week, so I do swim and I swim well. But track and basketball were my main sports. And then I transitioned to just doing basketball because it was just becoming involved after a while. And that was that I did that in college as a Division I athlete.
All right. So as you get through high school, and at what point do you recognize that you're going to have an opportunity to play at the next level?
That's a good question. I think when I got there in ninth grade, I still only had a couple of years under my belt, but I went to an extremely academic school, Townsend Harris High School. So I was really into the grades, and they didn't have the best team, but we played in the toughest division in Queens. And it was a turning point for me that summer coming from ninth grade into 10th grade that I trained. I stayed home with my coach. We worked out. I stayed home with my friends and we were training. I worked her camp. I trained during the day. And then I played travel basketball with the organization. It was 10th grade where I realized like, oh, I might be good at this. I knew I was going to college for free, but I thought I was just going to be on an academic scholarship. But when I came back for that 10th grade year and I started scoring more and doing more for my team started winning games. I was like, I might be able to do this at the next level.
Wow. And so you talked about travel ball real quick, and I like to periodically ask our different athletes that we have on. So from your view, how important is it to get involved in travel sports?
Um, well, it is. So I think the age of when you get involved is important.
Okay.
I am not, some people will be like, oh, start as early as you can. And it's not. I didn't start until I was almost 13, 12, 13 years old. And I think that was perfect for me. Some students start early, but girls traditionally, and I'm just talking about girls because I'm a girl, they will burn out of a sport if you do it too much and too early. I believe in training, I believe in professional development, but sports cost money. And so if you can save that to later years of their, middle school, secondary school level, I think that's when you join travel sports. And it's important because it lines up with the recruiting calendar. If playing at a post-secondary level is something you want to do, the spring and the summer have live recruiting periods that coaches can come see you and you get to see them on the sidelines and they're recruiting you. That happens in those times. So travel sports are important for that aspect of recruiting.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So when it came to your recruiting process and deciding what school you moved on to, what were some of the things that you utilized in making that decision?
That man, listen. First, I was so happy because back in the day, we used to get boxes of letters. We used to get the letters
Right.
to our house. So that was the coolest thing. And literally, I think only like 5 years ago, I got rid of the box, but the box was full of letters from all different colleges. And it was a cool thing. They wrote handwritten letters. But none of that phased me as enough as I need to know how far I was going to be from home. I would grew up in New York, so I didn't want to go too far. I was a really homebody. I loved my parents coming to all my events, so I knew I didn't want to go too far. So that's how I ended up in school in Jersey. But
Okay.
the deciding factor for me was not only did they have to have my major, I had to be able to double major because I'm also a geek. As kids will, my kids were like, "Oh, you're a brainy." I always love learning. I'm never going to stop loving learning. So I need to be able to make sure I could handle academically what I was doing, double major, and be a part of the honors program. And so that those three things were deciding factors in the schools I chose and how the proximity for me being able to get back and forth home.
Wow, that's good. And so I want to touch very early in this show because I always want our student athletes to remember that term, student athlete. And so often from my years of mentoring, there's so many young people from back home in Jersey to South Carolina to North Carolina where I'm at currently. So many young people are just so entrenched in utilizing that sport to relieve them of all their worries that they don't always focus on the academic end. So what motivated you or what was it that set you on that track to put education first?
Well, from a young age, I always loved learning. I did fairly well in school, but ultimately it was my mom. Like at the end of the day, she always said there was something that was going to have to get me to the next level. I was always going to have to get a career. I was always going to do a job. And yes, I had the desire once I saw the WNBA. Oh, I want to go pro. I want to go this, but numbers didn't lie. So I was like, hold on, I can make more money if I go get a job. And
Right,
then I was like, they're only going to play in the summer. They're only going to play 4 months, 5 months. I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my time? Do people just work out all the time? And so all of those questions went through my mind. And so academically, I was just like, no, I need to strive and I want to be the best at whatever I can do. And I want to be able to do it for a long time, right? Sports, your body's going, there's going to be a retirement. You're going to reach a cap at a certain age. And so I realized that early enough, thank God, early enough to realize that I needed to focus on my academics and make sure I had a plan for my future that still was going to benefit what I wanted to do, but benefit people more to come.
that's good. That's good. And so as you move on, to college, you say you end up going to
Billy Dickinson University in Jersey. Yeah.
Fairleigh Dickinson. And so what was that transition like? I think it's already you made it clear, so it's probably hard to ask you a normal question to ask. Was the transition hard academically? It probably wasn't. So
Because I went to a really extreme, a heavy academic school, and but I did my work in school, and so that's why even when I counsel kids now, I'm like, do the extra now. Take the AP class, take the honors class, because if you are an athlete and you get to college, it is going to be easier. You're going to class less during the week. You're not having as much to do, but you're going to be able to excel more than the next student because you trained that muscle. Just like you do in a sport, you train the muscle to get those shots up. You're shooting thousands and thousands of shots. But when you start training that brain and training your work ethic when it comes to academia at such a young age, 14, 15, 16, when you're in college, listen, that thing is going to come second nature because to be honest, certain things it doesn't require so much. It doesn't require so much in college. You're having that class once a week, maybe twice a week. In high school, you're having a class every other day. In some schools, every day. So now you get to learn how to plan and do that. And for a lot of student athletes that do take the heavier approach in high school, they succeed better in that post-secondary lifestyle.
that's good. That's good. So from the athletics and just what were some of your most memorable moments just moving on to play collegiately?
You mean from high school? What were some of my memorable moments or in college?
Well, between the two, between high school and college, because we really didn't touch high school, what were some of your most memorable moments in the sport?
Yes, in high school, I had that high game when we beat a team we weren't supposed to beat. Had 30-point game and it was exciting. I scored over 1,600 points in my career in high school, so that was exciting. I became the PSL Player of the Year for Queens. So I was in this really academic school that didn't have like the best athletics, but I was still ranked with all the other major, bigger programs. And because of that, I got to meet so many other athletes because you got to all-star games and you got to meet people. I think transitioning to college, it was when I became a CASITA All-American because it's an academic CASITA All-American. So not only did you have to be a starter on a Division I program to get this title, you actually had to be academically sound. And
Wow.
so there are very few of those. So that was really big for me. And working for the NCAA. So when I became, the reason why I even do what I do today, I think God solidified this when I became the SAC representative, and SAC stands for Student Athlete Advisory Committee. When I became the advisory representative for my whole conference, the Northeast Conference, the Northeast Conference, I got to talk. I became that representative for them. So I got to travel twice a year with student athletes from all the other conferences, Division I conferences, the ACC, the SEC, and each division only had one person. And we got to go to the NCAA office and we got to see things and work. And I think that was really passionate. And that's when I knew, because I could bounce a ball and because I did what I did the right way, doors were going to start opening for me. And it's not just because I scored all the points, it's because I'm using this experience the right way, right? I was involved in my student university. I was more than just on the court. I was outside the court. I was in the athletic department. They knew me, the commissioner, everybody knew me. I was
Wow.
I was making sure I was well known more than just an athlete on the campus.
Okay. So speaking to the young athlete, especially the one that is so super focused on, just making it to the highest level, what would you say to the young athlete about being able to tap into those other gifts that they have to see what they can possibly do outside of the sport when they're no longer playing?
Um, you're not just chasing one thing, right? Yes, getting a scholarship and playing at the division level is exciting. It's a 1% thing. You're becoming part of 1%. That's so exciting. But I always tell people, you ever accomplish something, set a goal and cross off the list and you're like, oh my God, I accomplished that. And then the next thing, you stay in that moment for a second and you go, what's next?
Right.
What's next? I promise you, it's the same thing with just getting to the 1%. Getting to the 1% is just one step. But there's a difference between being great and being elite. And people always want to, they think they're chasing being elite, but they're just chasing being good. We're not even that great yet. But people who are elite always have plans, they have avenues. So not only are they going to be 1%, they'll be like, oh no, I'm going to be the best in this. I'm going to be the best in the classroom. I'm going to be the best in this. I believe most elite athletes are elite in everything they do. So they're elite in their training. They're elite in their discipline. They're elite in their nutrition. Because it's impossible not to. They want to be the best in everything. So I would tell people, if you really, really want this, introspectively search what you're going to do. Because people who are elite, they don't just do their sport. They have a job plan. They have a business plan. They have everything lined up. They have a retirement plan. Think about more than just the one thing. Think about holistically, how am I going to add to my future? And what is really my purpose and calling? Like, what did God put me on this earth to really do?
That's good. That's good. That's good. And so I want to move on to what you're currently doing. I know as I came across your page on your social media platform, I see the title Academic Eligibility and Reclass Specialist. For those that don't know, what does that entail?
So academic eligibility, I chose to specialize in, I guess, because I didn't realize so many people didn't know how
Right.
to be academically eligible, right? So academic eligible, how we do that is I explain what it takes to actually get a scholarship academically, right? Not just to playing, what you need to do in the classroom, how many courses you need to take, what your GPA needs to be, and what time frame you need to do it in accordance to NCAA or NAIA rules. And so I navigate that path with any student athlete that wants to do it, and I make sure they understand the process of NCAA academic eligibility. The reclass start part of it, that actually started a couple of years ago. I guess COVID, I can say it picked up. I knew it was happening, but I didn't start happening a lot. And so I was like, man, every time I get on the phone to explain academic eligibility, everyone's asking me about reclassification. So then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to talk about this. And so I started showing, studying it, researching all the rules in different states, what reclassification looks like in Florida versus New York versus Pennsylvania versus Virginia, because every state has different rules when it comes to reclassification, especially depending on the year. Sometimes in seventh grade, sometimes in eighth grade. I started hearing it all. And so what I do is I'm not for it and I'm not against it. I'm for educating parents and families of the process so they can make an informed decision. I do not believe reclassification is for everyone. I think it's for a very small percentage of student athletes or families that they want to explore that avenue to help them. And reclassification, it works two ways. And that's a lot of times people forget that. Reclassification is simply changing your end date of graduation. Either you're going to graduate later by 1 year or you're going to graduate a year early. And a lot of times people don't even think about reclassing up or graduating early based on how they're planning. And when I get to sit with families, they're like, well, I don't even have to do that. They could just do this. And I just want to give that information to them. Like, what does this look like? How can you do it? If this is something you want to explore, I want you to be armed with the right information.
Wow. It's so amazing. And again, I don't mind letting my age seep out, but I'm 48. And just to think back to 95 when I graduated high school, like these were not things we were talking about.
Mhm.
So to hear so many now, especially between the platform and reaching out to athletes and me having an eye on, just high school sports and hearing so many athletes, reclass. And then sometimes you don't always know, but as I watch and see some of the athletes retire, graduating at a certain age, I'm like, hold up. And then later on, I'll find out at some point they reclass. I think it's former professional athlete. I think it's a lot of them I hear, like you say, will reclass back and repeat a grade. But I think it's Gilbert Arenas whose son may
Elijah.
have, I think he reclassed up, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. He's
Yeah.
so he's graduating early,
Right.
and he's doing that because he's reached a point where he knows he's able to go into college. But a lot of times when people of that stature, now Elijah is a really top ranked athlete. Obviously, he's the son of an NBA player. He's training, he's doing what he has to do, his due diligence. He does that so he can enter the draft earlier. And
Right.
but people don't understand that. Like they're just seeing these people do it that are high ranked student athletes, and they're like, I'm gonna do that. You don't have the trajectory he does. Is your daddy from the NBA? Like, does he have the trainers ready for you? Do you even have draft stock?
Right.
2027. Like he already has those type of things that he knows, hey, in 2027, 2028, I'm gonna go this part in the draft. I'm not like that's already happening. But because the world sees the internet and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do that. Let me copy that. Let me do that. And that's my issue. I want you to be educated in your decision. And everyone's not the same. If it's 1% to go to college to play Division I sports, imagine the NBA. Like, come on.
Wow. So, real quick before someone sees this episode and they get excited, I saw you saying on a small clip, public schools, you don't reclass in public schools.
No.
So before somebody who's never thought about reclassing hear this clip and says, I'm gonna go talk to someone about reclassing, I think you specifically named that either private school, online, or homeschooling is where you typically will find someone reclassing.
Finding someone reclassing. And now these days, a lot of times, even sports academies. And so that still falls into the veins of like a homeschool or a home education program. Public school is established by the government, by your county, state taxes. Their job is to get you out in the shortest amount of time because it costs money to keep kids in school. Now, I am stumbling upon some charter schools who are doing this, but again, that's a different title. And I don't know how they're doing it because if you get state funding, they better be careful. That's all I say. But at the end of the day, yes, it's public school. Public school cannot do it, but private school most likely, homeschool, home education, or sports academies.
All right, all right. So I want to touch real quick on a couple of different areas where you talk about eligibility. And again, I got to see a lot in some of the clips, some of the times you've been out and spoken different places. But how would someone, this clip kind of caught my eye. How could someone possibly be ineligible
Mm,
that has a 4.25 GPA? I saw that on one of your clips where you talked about an athlete having
yeah,
a high GPA, but still not being able
to
to
be
play.
to be NCAA eligible. And
NCAA eligible.
so, first, sometimes when I first started telling that story, I've been speaking, doing this for years. People are like, no way, impossible. And then, I never posted it. And so I posted that thing goes viral. Everyone starts, the sad thing is, if you really look at the comments on my posts or TikTok or Instagram, how many people say, oh, this happened to me? That's the same thing that happened to me. I missed out
Wow.
to Columbia. I had to go D2. I had to go y'all should be telling people. You know why? Because people think I'm making this stuff up, even though for the most part they don't now because I have so much to back it up. But some
Right.
be ineligible because in this situation, their core course list was not submitted from one of the schools this student athlete attended. So they attended a school where they took these advanced classes, but they had no NCAA cleared portal. So without an NCAA cleared portal that has your NCAA core list, you're ineligible. You cannot. I don't care if you go to college, high school for 4 years at that school. You're like, it's a real school. It exists. If it without an NCAA core list that has been approved, none of those classes count. And people are like, that doesn't make sense, but they can graduate. You can graduate and go to college. That does not mean you can graduate and be cleared to play NCAA. They have a set of rules they came up with that they're responsible for. They do tell every school to create an NCAA core list, but sometimes newer schools or even ones that are extremely older, they may have had one person that worked on that years ago, and maybe they didn't replace that person, or they're a newer school and they're still working through getting that approved for NCAA to be cleared by the eligibility center. So if you do not take classes that are listed on this particular list, they don't count.
Wow. So how is it that a student or their family themselves could avoid running into a situation like that if a list is outdated or something like that? Like, where should they look outside of being able to connect with someone like yourself? Where could they look to make sure their school list isn't off?
Oh, right on the NCAA website. And like
Okay.
this be knowledge. I tell people all the time, they be like shocked. I'm like, literally, type in NCAA list of courses. Like you can actually type it in, type your school's name, and then a list will come up. If it doesn't say cleared, or if you look at the date and the last time it was updated is something like 2001 or 2002, it needs to get updated. Whoever name is listed there, you need to contact them. If it's someone that's old, you go straight to the principal and tell them your list is out of date. I have a potential student athlete here, and this list needs to be updated. I've seen it time and time again, even for one class. Once I told the school and I worked with a family and I was advocating for them, they were like, oh my God, we didn't know this. We would never want them to miss out a scholarship. I will say this, there's no school out here maliciously wanting a kid not to get a scholarship, but they would, in their ignorance, not know to make sure that list is updated. But we've approached it and I've had to tell parents, hey, go fight for that, get that class added, update that list. For 9 times out of 10, we've gotten it updated.
Okay, that's good. So as we kind of get to wrapping things up, I just want to touch real quickly because so many times athletes are going through whether they should, if they're not quite ready to play on the D1 level, like what could be some of the benefits to playing on the D2, D3 level? And then I want to get into some conversations we were having earlier about JUCO, but could there be some benefits to going Division 2 or Division 3 if, again, you're not quite ready to step right onto that D1 stage?
Yeah, I think first off, I think we have to lose that mentality. People always say D1 or bust, right?
Right.
Any level that you're playing in 2025, post-secondary, is tough. I don't care. Yes, there are some Division 3 teams that might be low, but the numbers don't lie for me. I'm a woman of numbers. I like percentage. To play at Division 1 level is a 1% chance. Men's basketball, women's basketball, 1.2. To play at Division 2 level is 1.4% chance.
Ooh.
I thought it was going to be 500%. No, it's 1.4. I mean, 1.2 for women, 1% for boys, 1%. So now we're still in this 1% range. To play at Division 3 level, 1.3%, 1.5% for girls. And when I say these numbers, people look at me and like, well, I know they're not going to go D1, so I'm going to let them go D2. What do you mean, let them? It's still a 1% chance. It's a 1%, 1%. We're not talking about huge percentages of getting on, especially this day and age. We have D2 level kids who are going D3, who are not even getting a scholarship. We have D1 kids that got to go D2. We got D2's kids that got to go JUCO. And then JUCO has levels, D1 and up. So yes, but here's my thing. If they're not ready, to be honest, they might not be ready to play post-secondary basketball or post-secondary sport at all. Because
Right.
the percentages are too low for you not to have a mindset that you want to play. So I can't even really answer that question because I'm like it's hard to play at any level.
Hello. That's good.
High school kid, it's hard to play at any level.
All right. And so real quick, I happen to have my son is been blessed. He made it through the COVID period. He played at Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he's now a grad assistant, going into his second year as a grad assistant. So for those that are not educated about D3s, I saw you cover this. Why is it that how are Division III schools not able to offer scholarships, but they're able to offer funds in other ways? How does that quite work with Division III schools?
They don't give scholarships. It's not the same. It's also Division I, Division II, Division III. It's all about the budgets of the school. I try
Right.
to tell people this all the time, but they're like, what does that mean? Well, it is about the budget of the school, but Division III schools just don't give scholarships, but they
Right.
do honor financial aid and merit scholarships. So I always tell families a student athlete is 3 times more likely to get merit money any day than an athletic scholarship. So go after that merit money. So what Division IIIs do is they use academics, merit, all that to fulfill giving a scholarship towards those levels. Division I, Division II can give athletic funding because their budgets are bigger. There is no other way to slice it up. Way bigger budgets and way this. Now there are some Division III schools, not all three D3 schools, not all D1 or D2 schools are created equal. So
Mhm.
what a Power 5 budget looks like at the D1 level may not look like that for a low D1 school. That low D1 may have the same budget as a D3 school, but ultimately they choose to be a part of that because it's not only the budget, it's also the amount of number of collegiate teams or competing teams in the NCAA tournament they can offer to. And so Division III is still a viable option, but you're not gonna get any athletic money for that.
All right, all right. So we talked briefly before we started recording, and we talked about the quarterback out of the NCAA. His last name Pavia, that kind of you know filed the suit against the NCAA to get an extra year of eligibility. So it's been this big craze and a lot of miseducation about the whole JUCO thing. Now people think, oh, I can. I'll be honest. When I first heard it, I think I heard it where someone didn't quite articulate it the correct way, so it threw me off. I'm on the phone with a buddy back home in Jersey, like, man, did you hear this about JUCO students? And so we're already having a conversation because we got 30-year-olds playing in the NCAA. So now we're like, wow, how much is this going to change the game? But after a period of time, I was able to watch your page and finally do some reading myself, and so I got a little bit more clarity. And so, if you can touch on real quick just the changes that may, or at least what we temporarily have in place
Yes,
regarding JUCO.
well, the JUCO rules have not changed on the grand scheme of things, right? So if you are a young student athlete and you're going into JUCO, guess what? It's going to count. The moment you become a full-time student and you're on a roster, your eligibility clock is going to start. So let me be clear for that. Now, the Pavia situation, that December 2024 decision was that Pavia was exhausting his eligibility. That means he was not going to have any more eligibility going into that 25-26 school year, which is next year. And so he was fighting because he was like, hey, I want one more year because of his NIL money. But he was fighting because he wanted one more year because he felt like his time at JUCO shouldn't have counted against him. So he's decided to use that wonderful NIL money that he has to find a lawyer and to sue the NCAA to give him one more year. And so they ended up like we're not gonna go back and forth, and they passed an injunction, not our law, but an
All right.
injunction. So it was pending, but he got to use it. And so then other kids were like, whoa, what about me? I'm losing my eligibility too. So the NCAA was like, we don't have time. I don't want to say that, but I'm assuming they were like, listen, we're not about to go with everybody. So let's pass a blanket waiver for all people who are in the same situation as Pavia for the 2025-2026 school year and give them a waiver. And so if you were exhausting eligibility and you needed one more year and you were going to a Division I school, they gave you a blanket waiver, no matter if you went to JUCO or a non-NCAA school. And so that's really what happened But in the midst of all that happening, they're like, oh, JUCO years don't count. Oh, this is what's happening. And so you had freshmen, sophomores. I even heard coaches telling me that they're telling their kids to go JUCO because it's not going to count against them and then try to get
Wow.
one. I'm like, it is counting. It is counting. Like, stop telling them this. And so I started speaking up against it. And even in that post, when I literally was arguing with people, then I was like, I'm not going to argue with you. Let me contact the NCAA. Let me contact the NJCAA, which is the JUCO, right, reasoning body. And I got physical evidence. Like the JUCO commissioner wrote of eligibility, wrote me back and said the rules did not change. This was only for Pavia. I have that. And then I talked to amazing people at the NCAA. They called me and they were like, I don't know why this is happening. We did not change the rule, this and that. And they just came out with some more guidance towards it. And people thought, oh, look, the NCAA just came out with this guidance. I was like, actually, it's actually less times that this counts now. Now, if you had the COVID waiver, but you did not attend a school that was a non-NCAA school or, like there was an NAI or JUCO in the following years, you're not going to get the waiver anyway. So now people are still confused, but at least we have more guidance towards it. But ultimately, the rule never changed.
Right.
Like it was really for one situation.
Correct, correct, correct. Well, we thank you for the awesome information that you've been able to offer. I wanted to be careful not to give people too much because I want you to take a minute and just give us all your platforms and how you can be reached for those that can really are in need of your the information that you provide and your platform. Like give us all your different social media threads and email addresses or any information to reach out to you.
Yes, I'm on social media. Social media. Wow, I can't talk tonight. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok under my name. I don't have any crazy names. It's just Shanay Howard. And if you want to reach me, you can inbox me. Then you're gonna get access to my Calendly link. I give out free consults. I also have a website, and it's under my new brand called A Front Row Seat. And it's FRSlive.com. And there you can also book a consult with me because if you need to get me. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Now I'm on Twitter because I work with a lot of football families and they're on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter, but it's all under my name, Shanay Howard. And you can reach me there, inbox me. I am the one who's checking it. I'm not a bot. Somebody called me a bot last week and it was like, it is me. How do you want me to prove it? So I'm not a bot. I do spend time checking all my inboxes and reading all the comments because I am out here to help families and student athletes. So I take it very seriously and I take it as an honor when you do reach out to me because it gives me another chance to live out my purpose and why I'm here and why God called me to help and give information for families.
Wow, and that's good. And I think you really just kind of took the next question that was on mine because I was going to ask, like, being able to play in high school and then move on to play collegiately, like, what feeling do you get from being able to impact the lives that you're able to impact in the way that you're doing it now, still being connected to the sport?
Man, uh, I tell families all the time, don't take the young face for you. I'm old. I've been doing this over a decade and a half, and I get a feeling, it's hard to describe, but I know I'm living out what God called me to do. Every time we get to the finish line, and I remember I transport, like I have a senior now that he's going to Michigan State last year, but I instantly transport back to when I met the mom and him in eighth grade. And we were sitting, she's like, Sinead, this is not going to work. What do you think? How do you fix this? What things should we do? Which team is he going to play on? We went through all that. And then we get to the finish line now. And, I'm watching him and I see him grow up. It's a feeling that is amazing. And I always tell every parent, mom, dad, I'm like, wait till we get to graduation. We all going to be crying. And I cry every time. Every signing day I cry, but every time I get to see it over and over again, I go, God, you allow me to new mercies every day. You allow me to see this over and over. So the feeling is amazing. It's life-changing. I wish I could do it for everyone. I'm trying to like multiply it, but anyone I get to impact or that a parent allows me to have a front row seat to their journey, I am so forever grateful.
That's good. That's good. And it's just good to hear you say that because it's always good to link up and meet people who are like-minded in that way, where life is just about doing what God has purposed you to do. And so I know with me here on the local and here in North Carolina now, and even when I'm able to connect back home in Jersey, just the opportunities to really know that you're impacting somebody's life and being a part of change and feeling like you're doing what God has you here to do. Like it's something special about that feeling. So it's good to hear someone else that is passionate about doing and knowing they're doing something, that God has purposed them to do. So I thank you for what you're doing. And we're gonna go into our last question, two questions we always ask every show for the student athlete that's watching. How important is it to have positive people in your circle?
Man, listen to your parents. They always say people around you. It show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's not a cliche. It's real. It's very important to have the right people around you. But even more important if you decide to be a student athlete. You have to have people that when you say I don't want to wake up in the morning, they're gonna hold you accountable. When you don't want to study for that test, like I'm like, you need to study, girl. You need to study, God. Like you need people around you that's gonna push you, but also that's gonna set you up for greatness. That's not gonna define you by the sport that you play. They're going to say you're more than just this, because if in the event you get injured or you want to walk away, you're more than your sport. You are an individual with a bright future. God has a plan for you. So you want to make sure you have people that can speak that to you and keep that around you and keep you going to the finish line.
That's good. That's good. And last question, who or what is it that inspires you most in life?
Man, I always go, people are crazy, but my mother. My mother's is the only child, but she had 5 children. I'm a twin. I have one in the middle and I have twin brothers. And this woman and my dad, I say, I would say my parents. How about that? Because my dad worked to provide a family for his middle class family in Queens, New York, but he did it. But they showed up. The ministry of presence is so big to me, and they always were there. But they never let me take the easy route. They never took me out of things. They never. So when I was playing basketball, I decided to play. They were like, "You better do it." She made us have a commitment. Anytime we started something, she said, "You have to do it for a year before you can say you're not going to do it anymore." I played multiple sports. I played instruments. I danced. It did not matter. I went to every museum in New York. Like there's things that she required of us that I look back now and said, "There's a reason why I am the way I am today." My own children, I'd be like, a year. Come back to me when you think you're gonna quit. And so she is my inspiration, and she's God-fearing. She's a woman of the, of church of the Lord. She taught me how to seek him first, not her, not human, not man, but to seek my heavenly Father for guidance. And for that, I'm forever grateful because I live this out every day.
That's good. That's good. Always good to end my shows on that note because anyone knows over the last 2 or 3 years we've been going, I always love just for to have those guests that really talk about what I believe is missing so often, and that's that foundation. And your faith and your foundation. I think you're proof, just like so many other guests, that when you have that foundation, like God will have you through your journey, and we'll all face different things, but when you have that foundation, it's just something different that drives you on a different level, knowing that you're walking in the purpose that He has for you. So we thank you, Ms. Howard, for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for Thank you for all the information that you've offered. And y'all know I say it every show. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So we thank you for joining us again. We ask, as always, don't just listen to the shows, don't just watch, but be intentional in applying the information. And she's provided her platform and her pages for you to reach out to her so you can get all this offer, great information that she has. So we thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next episode as we continue to go out and up.